But let's talk about Lil Ryan. Lil Ryan Combs.
Okay.
Let's talk about him. Where you grew up and how you got into music.
Okay. Well, I grew up inside of the projects, actually, Canaan Village Apartments. The elementary was right next door to it. It was in Allendale. That's my neighborhood. That's where I grew up, and to this day, my mother still lives there. I actually got introduced to music from my father. He was a DJ, and he also was a MC. He rapped over the crowd while spinning records, including my brother. He was an upcoming rapper inside of Allendale that a lot of people knew. He had a local buzz. A lot of people knew him. So as you can say, it was kind of tough to follow in those footsteps because they were really buzzing at that time. My brother was it. And me trying to, oh, he just Little Ryan. Like, yeah, you know, they never really paid me attention when I told them, hey, man, you know, I want to rap. Like, I got skills. And I told my brother, I said, hey, big brother, like, I want to rap. And he looked at me like, huh? Look, go outside and play basketball or something. Because I love sports at the time, but he never knew that I actually was listening to everything him and my father did, and I'd go in and I'd figure out what I was doing in my life. Me learning how to rap and my love for the passion of music came from my father and my big brother. That's where it originated, and that's why I rap to this day, is really for my family to get them to a better lifestyle. Because my brother was, like I said, he was an up-and-coming artist. He was known inside of the local areas. His name, it carried weight in our neck of the woods. So wherever I went, when they talk about music, they would always bring my brother up inside of walking through the neighborhood, because I played at Lakeside Recreational Center playing basketball all the time, and they would always bring up my brother and how good he was at rapping and making music and everything. So ultimately, in the back of my mind, I was like, man, I do music, and I rap, but I hadn't even recorded anything, so why am I talking about I do music? But I did. I used to think to myself, man, I want to tell people I rapping, but I had no credentials. I had nothing behind my name, nothing carried weight except my brother's name. So I would just be Little Ray C. His name was Ray C, and I'm putting that out there. His name was Ray C, so that's how people would call me, Little Ray C. They never look at me as my own person. Till I got to like my teenage years, they still didn't. They stopped calling me Lil Racy because I got taller than my brother, and started calling me Ryan. But I wanted my name. I wanted Troof to be the name. Like, I wanted people to be like, address me. Like, address me as Troof. I didn't put myself out here. I didn't grind it for this name. Like, put me out here. But it didn't catch on immediately. It didn't. So it took some time, and eventually, people started to give it a listen. I started to hear my brother say, man, people talking about you. So, immediately when you hear your brother, somebody you looked up to in this music thing, you think to yourself, oh man, like, if I can make my brother feel me, I can make anybody feel me. And people probably don't think like that, but I think like that. My brother was big to me. He was big in the neighborhood. People knew him. So I'm thinking, hey, I want that buzz. I want people to like dig me. So in that same context, that's what I did. I tried to grind so that he would approve of it. You know what I mean?
But do you remember your first rap?
First rap.
Like the first rap you ever wrote?
I remember the first hook I ever wrote. It was a song called "Where You From," and I know at that point, the reason that I did it like that is because that's the kind of thing my brother was into. He was in that like hood ripping and stuff like that. So I just remember me saying, I'm from the city where you jig, where you from? And everybody out here do it big. Where you from? I gotta get it how I live. Where you from? Ain't no faking, homie. Keep it real. Where you from? Like, that was the hook to it. I do remember that much. I don't remember the actual words to the 16, but that was the hook for it. I know because that literally, like I said, my brother was the influence. So with this hood, I thought I was hood. I live vicariously through my brother. I used to think I was hood, so I was like, where you from? Like, but that's no longer Ryan. So, That was the first hook. So I can give you that. That was the first hook.
How old were you when you did that one?
I was 12.
12?
I was 12 years old when I wrote that. And that was literally when I started trying to write. By 14, that was my first time getting inside of a studio. So
talk about that, your first experience in the studio.
Nervous. I remember it like it was yesterday because I told him I wanted to do it, and he brushed it off and told me to go play basketball. But he came back to me. He was like, all right, kick something. So I'm running in the room, I'm getting my notebooks, and I'm flipping through the papers, and I'm like, I got to find the best rap. You know, the best one, the one that would captivate him enough to make me go, and make him go, hey, I'm going to bring you inside of the studio, and I'm going to let you do something. It was this guy, he was like, I didn't know your little brother rapped. And it was like, hey, yeah, you know, we're going to give him a shot, man. You know what I'm saying? He spit something for me. I liked it. So they dropped this song, and I rapped. I'm nervous. So the first time, it was almost kind of like animator Ike or something, you know, pushed it, you know, like it like, you know, telling me sing it how, you know, like how, like, come on now, like push it out, you know what I'm saying, like get it, you know. So I'm like, okay, like I'm nervous now because so much pressure, but I had to understand that pressure is going to be inside of this industry. It's going to be like that. It is. You're going to have pressure. And when I realized that, it flowed better. I ended up knocking out my first verse. During that time of recording, it was like I was in my own zone. I was blocked out. Like, I literally was in my own zone. I couldn't feel nobody behind me. To this day, that's probably the reason why I record with the lights out. Because it brings me back to that first moment when I felt like nobody else was in the room. And it was just me and the mic. So I looked over to my brother and the guy who was recording, and they was going this like, oh, like, you know, like dude, like your brother, like, oh, and then, you know, they're going back and forth, and I'm like, I must have did good, you know what I'm saying, because they was tripping, like, and I'm like, oh snap, like, you like it? He was like, dude, you killed it. I remember him hugging me, and I'm just like, man, like, oh, I thought I made it, like, you know what I'm saying, like, it wasn't even like it wasn't. I didn't get signed to no label or nothing, but man, to have the approval of my brother was big. It was big. So that first moment, I'll never forget that. For real.
Like, who did you listen to when you were growing up? Like, who were your influences?
When I was growing up, I was a huge Outkast fan. That was like my squad. Like I could jam them like day in, day out. Fresh and So Clean was like literally my anthem at one point in my life. And the reason why I listened to them so much was probably because they were so different. They basically told stories, but they showed you that it's okay to be an outcast. It's okay to be different. You don't have to be like everybody else. And now I pride myself on being different. I don't want to be like every other artist. So they kind of like made me into the artist that I am in a way, because like constantly just listening to them with hip hop bars and stuff like that, you learn from different stuff. And of course my brother had me on up and coming artists when I was little, as well as he had me on artists that he was listening to, Tupac, Biggie, you know, these were influences as well. But if I had to choose like a staple in Troofs, it was Outkast. It was Outkast. Well, since that transition, of course, I was still. I didn't have my own sound yet. I didn't. I didn't have what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be a rapper. From 14 till I graduated, I lived vicariously through my brother off of his rhymes, rapping about stuff that I went through, but also using him as a crutch. But I knew I always wanted to have my own sound, and I knew I always had something unique, but I didn't know how to put it together. When I graduated at 17, I started going to college, and I stopped for a while because music, it just wasn't booming. It wasn't. But every now and then somebody will say something, and I kick like a little something for them to show them like I still got it or whatever. But I wasn't doing it really. It wasn't until I came back to Shreveport and I started going to Bipsy. I met up with this guy. His name was Altavius Andrews, and at the time he called himself Tay the Kid Killer. Now at this point, I was just like, hey, let me see what y'all got. I ended up checking him out, and man, dude had like this flow that was, pretty tight. Something I hadn't heard. It was different, and he told me he was a part of a group, and I'm like, group? I've never heard of. I know about groups, but who? What group is this? And he says, man, we the Goodfella crew, GFC. And I'm like, GFC. Now, take heed. This is bringing me back to Outkast, who was my favorite group, and I always remember it like, man, it was a duo type thing. And like, they bounced off of each other and kind of swagged it out. And I was like, I always wanted to be a part of something like that. It's like, man, that would be cool if I could slide my music in and try to come a part of the Goodfella crew. And they wasn't big, but they were booming. And they got into the college area, and they still was booming in their own right. So I said, yo, man, check out my joint. And at the time, where you from, I had redid it and made it more newer and catering to that time frame. So they heard it, and Tay told me, hey man, you got flow. And he tells the rest of the people in this, like in the group GFC. So I'm like, I'm hyped, I'm ready. I'm like, man, like when I'm meeting them. So I can tell you this: the first time I met Floyd, Marlo King, which is, became one of my best friends to this day. But first time I met him, he was having a bad day, and they were walking on the boardwalk, and I ended up dapping Kid Killer up, and I'm like, yo, what's going on, brother? You know what I'm saying? I tried to dap up Skip, and Skip gave me this disgruntled look, like, man, who are you? And I remember this vividly, but when Tay was like, man, this is the dude, Troof, I was telling you about, like, he got flow, you need to check him out. And he was like, oh, what's up, homie? But it transitioned into them asking me to come by the house. And the reason they were asking me to come by the house was because they wanted me to rap for them. But this wasn't just any rap. They were treating it almost like a record label type thing. They put a song on, and they said, yo, write a 16. If we like it, you win. You win the crew. If not, I'm sorry. But, that's just how it's going to go, bro. And, it kind of like grew and went right back to, when I went inside the studio for my brother. And I started to think to myself, and this is what I want to do. Easy. Drop the 16, like, spit it to him. And this time, it was no nervousness. It was like, bro, I'm hungry. Like, y'all don't even understand. Like, this Troof name is going to get out here. I'm trying to get it. So when I rapped it, and they went crazy off of it. Not near about as skilled as I am lyrically now, but they dug it. They love it. And when that happened, I was a part of the Goodfella crew. I ended up doing about 2, maybe 3 mixtapes with them, and we were buzzing. We started off, passing out locally and stuff like that, but the name was ringing, and we ended up moving towards Words Over Lattes. That transition changed because the guy that I initially met, Kid Killer, he ended up moving to Boston, and he had a child. He had his first child. Shout out to him. And when he did that, he left. So it was a missing piece inside of the crew. The original Goodfellas, which a lot of people don't know this, is it was Kid Killer, Pac-Man, Skip, who is Marlo King to this date, and me. That was the original Goodfellas. But life, it happens, and they had to do different things ultimately, which just left me and Marlo King. So we were looking for someone to fill that void because they had to take care of their responsibilities, which I definitely understand. And my boy Corbin, who I had been rocking with for a long time. I had been rocking with him for a long time. This was before I even met them. I had already knew Corbin. We was rapping together all the time. We had been doing. As a matter of fact, me and him dropped a mixtape together called Done of the Truth, and that was beginning of college at Bipsy. So I'd already knew him. I'd introduced him to the crew. Skip and everybody else, they loved him. They thought he was a cool guy, you know what I'm saying? And eventually he became a part of the fellas. From that point on, we were performing like crazy. We traveled. We opened up for like Duro. It was at Wiley College. Got great reviews. That was my first time ever getting asked for an autograph, by the way. That was a huge night for me. Just saying. We were buzzing for quite some time. But once again, life happens, and you know, people have to take care of responsibilities. Marlo King ended up leaving, and he ended up having his first child. And when he had his first child, he ended up moving to Virginia. So a lot of things changed. From that point on, I knew something had to transition. I had already been getting, you know, people telling me like, man, because when we dropped the group mixtape called The Feast, we individually had songs on there by ourselves. Coming to me like, man, that one song you did on there, it's bananas. Like, you know, like they were going crazy. Like, you ever thought about like doing something like, and you know, I always thought about it, but you know, I got so adapted to the group because I'm a loyal guy. I've always been loyal to the people that have been loyal to me, and those will be my family members forever. But ultimately, everybody had to find their own lane and figure out what they wanted to do with their lives. Now, to be honest with you, and I'm being like quite frank, when I dropped Glad to Be Slept On, the only thing I was thinking in my mindset was, I just want people to know I can rap. I knew what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. I just wasn't savvy enough as far as the business wise goes, like to get it done. But I knew how to find beats, rap on them, and get it out to the public. That was my thing. I was just like, hey, I can't afford anything right now. At that time, I didn't know nothing about leasing. I didn't know nothing about exclusive beats and stuff like that. I had no idea about none of this stuff. All I knew was I can rap, and I'm great at it. So I want to get it out there, regardless of how I get it. So I started looking for industry beats. But my catch what it was, I never picked really beats that were known by people in our area. The radio captivates, which automatically makes us hear the music, and we go, oh, that's a jam. That's a jam because it's on the radio. So I didn't want to pick beats that everyone knew. Is what I'm getting at. When I can't take it, I can't take it no more. This is what I say. La-di-da-da-da, la-di-da-da-da. Well, you can't take it. Well, you can't take it no more. This is what you gotta let me know when you're going.
I went from hand-me-downs to nothing at all. From being nothing to the people to something to call Troof. Say my name, yeah, wear it out. Not Michelle Kelly, your B, but Destiny's Child.
But Glad to Be Slept On, when I did this, I basically was just trying to let people know that I was an up-and-coming artist. I was hungry. I wanted to let people know I could rap and make a name for myself. Not knowing that it would have such a buzz that it did. A lot of people knew of it. I started getting posts and retweets and certain things of people, just fans and fans and fans of people going like, man, like that was amazing, so well put together. Like that was probably one of the most crazy things in my head, because I remember the process of me making Glad to Be Slept On and putting so much thought into it. Like it has to have skits, and the skits have to be perfect, and they have to have this and that and this and that. Not knowing that people would pay attention to it and go, man, it was so well put together. And that really did something for me, because it lets me know that people aren't just listening. They aren't just listening to the beat. They're listening to the experience of the album. The experience. Like, I'm giving you an experience through the speakers, through these headphones. Whatever you're listening to, I'm giving you an experience. So that's what I wanted. But it ended up really, really going a lot of places.